Not that much.
With the same,
If only you got that much yourself.
with the same reg, eh?
What are they selling it for? It's more than you.
Yeah, a lot more.
Oh, I don't
You
hate
sold it
it.
to the records and wholesale.
Thanks, man. Beautiful.
Where are you first? Green Ranger. Sent to a cooler. You remember Street Fighter? You used to play Street Fighter?
Yeah, not much though. I didn't play it much, but yeah. It was big in the style. It's still around too, isn't it?
Yeah, still. Now these guys are acting him out. Oh, sorry, I thought you were into
You're funny. Have you had a rehearsal? I know, right?
Actually being able to pick the songs beforehand.
Exactly. Is it more fun that way?
They make like Batman vs. Darth Vader.
Cool kids are on this side of the table.
Wolverine vs. Predator. Yeah, cool.
Isn't that right, Trace? All the cool kids are on this side of the table.
Well, I'm here, so self-explanatory really, isn't it? She's smashing her things.
Jacket on Elijah. Yeah.
No, the jacket's there.
Are you waiting for a tall trip?
No, I've been.
EMP did.
Sam, high five?
No, it's okay. It's biscuits.
Put
Oh,
Watch the videos.
I'm just going to get them. Sorry.
I must go. So I was busy when I was doing the first batch that came now, you were like perfect. And then I was busy preparing tea as well. And then, I got distracted. And I was like, oh no,
She's always feeling, isn't it? Because you can't do anything about it.
Darth Vader kidnapped Superman.
Can we have that down, please, guys?
perfect.
Oh, they might not
Hey,
that one, yeah. Oh, I didn't know they were there.
slide.
Nathan, we'll put everything together.
You're going to go for the overcooked?
Yes.
Good job, Graham. Good job.
Those ones are the better ones, aren't they?
That's true.
What is that?
Yeah.
Thank you, decent, right?
Yours, mate? Oh, thank you.
Okay. Aaron, can you pass me that Bible and you can use yours?
I'm feeling a bit blind today.
That's still a little.
Yeah, it is.
I might go for the VR.
That's just all this.
Is at your feet.
What's the
Playing footsies with my son.
Okay.
When
Why
I'm
did you
feeling
let your
blind.
dad bring you today? I told your dad to bring you so that we could go home in the same car.
He didn't tell me that. See, when I'm feeling blind. Do you think you can read that one, Tyler?
Huh?
Do you think you can read that one?
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Let's play kind of that.
You know, the way the cereal's explained. What about that one? Perfect.
That's too much for me.
Where it's I put it in different sort of contexts.
Okay.
So go from convention to mixing the salt makes Jonah sort of sound like a really not stuck up, unrepentant person. What's your sort of sound like a really Sorry, Chris. The last few verses, I'm a heat. The boy from Planet Foods.
Mary.
Graduated.
Somebody to marry.
Yeah, okay. I'll get
Thank
Do you want me to take some stuff away from
The shop ones.
Shop ones.
and the glasses?
Send it back that way.
Yeah.
Snobby.
Do you want a real cookie? There's some real ones here.
We're spoiled, people.
Okay, now? Can you get the Bible from up there? Can I have it? Those are pretty good.
Do you want coffee?
Yes, please.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Graham wants the real cookies as well.
Yeah, leave it down this end.
They really don't need to.
Do not leave it down that way.
You know, I'll put on weight when I come.
It's a really good Katrina.
You're welcome.
Even the dark ones, they are the best ones, the crunchy ones.
I thought you were reaching for one biscuit.
Could you like it?
Feeling generous today.
How many kinds of biscuits?
Okay.
Yeah, make sure you taste it. Taste it first.
Just before I get
He's
comfortable.
too grumpy, I'm too scared to ask for anything else.
Are you going to be the cup arrow as well?
Graduated.
You got my Bible that's in the room, please?
I would love a coffee.
With milk?
No. I need it. So I can link it. Yes, for the recording.
Okay, it needs to be blue.
So it has to be right.
Black or a little bit of milk?
So it should be okay.
I
Make sure you don't face it
don't bother
towards
with a little bit of milk anymore.
You have to move it. You have to be like that the whole stack.
I know, I can't see that phone.
Just so that, just so Tracy can see.
Or we could just move the chair back, that way it can still be straight.
No,
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, guys.
I like to putting
I like to
too
be able
much
to
on
see
not quite
this.
enough.
Now,
If you move
back.
yourself, it would be better.
The red light?
it would be.
Yeah, take some
You
of
have
it.
to
Just a little bit, not much.
give it this titration.
Bit more.
Maybe you need 10 or 11 or
No, up.
You know when you add just a little bit of drop and then all of a sudden it explodes into the colour? That's why I making coffees for you.
There, that's it. Take down the volume.
Titration.
Dark or light?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I think, I don't know what that was. I'm serious.
Once it actually kicks in here,
Just shout. Look out like this.
then it's
Always want to.
released.
Okay, then one that has
Yeah, no, but eventually I'll drop off again. So I do that.
That's the famous Russian. And drop off.
And drop off.
Jonas also mentioned
That's why we get
I drop
sandwich
off.
I drop off.
Okay. So, I'm gonna begin soon.
Danger, danger, danger.
Let's pray before we begin. Avinu Malkeinu, Father, our King, we pray for your blessing upon today's word. May your name be glorified through it. May there be nothing of me and all of you. Father, I pray that you would send your word and fulfill the purpose for which you send it to us, to each of us, the portion or the measure that you have separated for us today. We pray, Father, that you would have your way with us today. that you will do all that you purpose to do in our lives. In healing and in understanding of your word, in all things, and commit ourselves into your hands. In Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, just bear with me a second.
Forget that word. I know.
What's this? Is this a new Bible?
This is the interlinear.
Okay, so I wasn't gonna continue with the subject.
I have a question for you.
Thought last week was done away with, but the Father wants me to do one more. So we're gonna talk healing.
This is
As
like
we have
this is like
the
Rob
body.
Skeeter's 50 parts of the heart one.
Yeah.
Bergson.
48 parts or 49 parts? I'm not quite there yet.
Next week.
I think that's what he got to with his new series.
Oh, you're on the same thing.
Yeah.
Alright, so today is the final one. I am pretty sure it's the final one. And I wasn't gonna do today's one on healing. I actually wanted to start another series called Apologetics. We're gonna go into apologetics next. Defense of our faith. So we're gonna be studying the different texts, the different weird and wonderful doctrines out there. And we're gonna get all messed up. So, we're gonna get into that one. I don't know how many series. That might be 40-something series. So once we start down that road, it can be never ending. But anyway, today we're gonna start on John chapter 10.
Right here.
Sometimes simple things are hard.
Verse 9 to 11.
Doesn't matter, does it?
TLB is not here.
Doesn't matter.
Don't worry.
TLB, okay, let's go. Okay, let's go to TLB. You want this one, the scriptures version?
That'll do.
Oh, look, another one.
That's,
Because you're using that one.
let's just,
Yeah, this will do.
no,
Actually,
it's okay.
this one is
So,
better.
Ari,
This is
Ari, stop making trouble.
Just use any.
what?
Oh,
Hell on! I'll get off.
the one on the left is English.
Back the other one.
We all get tested in life. We all get tested. Come on.
I'll Google it.
I'll Google it.
John 10. Now I'll read from the CIV.
Have you got the Holy Bible app on your phone?
No,
That
I don't
one?
read on the Bible on my phone.
Oh, you don't? Because you can get the scriptures up on that.
Nathan. Don't read.
Okay.
I know what you're saying there, listener.
Ready? John chapter 10, verse 9 to 11. Somebody read it for us? Are we clear?
Can I read?
Yep.
I am the door. Whoever enters through me, he shall be saved, and shall go in and shall go out and find pasture. The thief does not come except to steal and to slaughter and to destroy. I have come that they might possess hide, and that they might possess it beyond measure. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep.
This is the red ice.
Right. So a few things there. The gate. Or door.
Yep, I can tell you off by heart.
Yeshua said, I am the gate or the door. Which we know is what? The door in the Hebrew, what's the letter for the door? The dalet. Dalet. In the modern Hebrew, in ancient Hebrew, is the triangle, which translates to the Greek delta, which translates to our modern D. Right? What number is the dalet?
4.
The fourth letter, right? Refers to the number 4. What's the fourth commandment?
Shabbat.
Fourth commandment. Shabbat. Bear that in mind. Yeshua said, I am the door. Let's talk about something else. He said, I am the shepherd, the good shepherd, right? And he said, I've come to give you life and life abundant. What does that mean? Huh? Thank you. Life abundant.
Do you want to fix shepherd while you're
Okay, awesome.
That's the problem when you have too many homeschooling mums.
And all the teachers, tough crowd. Right? It says, it says he's the door. He stands at the door and knocks, right? Remember in the Revelations? It also says they will go in. Who's they?
Well, knocks.
Now in this verse, they will
Sheep.
go in. The sheep. And they will go out. What? Why will they go out? Why would you go out once you're in?
Food.
They will find pastures. That's an interesting one.
Psalms 23.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul. It's happy. Can we read Psalm 23? Someone got Psalm 23 for us?
Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters, and he restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, and you anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, for I will dwell in the house of Adonai forever.
Amen. Leads me lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul. Right? So we're talking about healing of the spirit, of the soul, of the nefesh. He restores. That word restores, remember we talked about restore being the proper translation for healing. He restores my soul.
In this translation it says, he turns back my being.
Yeah, from Sheol. But why would they go out? I mean, they're in. Why would they go out?
They might hear a word of teaching, somebody's enticing them to go out and they get lost.
So it says, because it says they will go out and find pastures.
I send you out as sheep among wolves.
Okay. We're not meant to stay in all the time. We are in the world but not of the world. Right? We belong to his flock. What does a shepherd do just a normal day? A shepherd.
Fresh grass.
He takes the sheep out to green pastures, right?
Yep. And he brings them back.
Yep. He's there looking after them while they eat and get fat. And then protects them from the wolves, from the lions and the bears, the predators. And then at night, what does he do?
Brings them back in.
Brings them back in. He stands at the door, right? He opens the door, lets them in. And in fact, in the olden days, when the shepherds used to take them really far away, they would make, remember, they would make a little circle thing with thorns.
All that stuff that you got there.
Yep.
Yep.
Acacia wood, acacia plants, with thorns down there. And he takes them in. And what does he do? He stands at the door. He sleeps in the doorway. Right? So the sheep go to sleep inside there, protected, and he stands at the door. So any predators trying to come in, they have to go through him first.
At the gate, at the door.
At the gate.
Yep.
Right? But what happens in the morning? He lets them out again, right?
Yep.
So this is what that is about. They go in. They go into the protection of the Torah, and then they go out once they have been protected through the night, right? They go out again into pastures. So our lives are constantly in jeopardy except for the shepherd, yeah, who's looking after us. And then there's those sheep that want to run away, right? There's the one sheep that always wants to get lost. Goes too far, climbs too far. Right? The one that he had to put all the other ones in the pen and then go after that one. Yeah? So there's those sheep too. So to give us life abundance, what does that mean? What does it mean to have life and life abundance?
According to this verse, it says beyond measure.
Beyond measure?
More than we can think of.
More than we can think of? Yep.
I think today, this morning, we're having a conversation with Pabs, and I said to him, when do we get old? When did our children begin to start getting ready to get married and have their own children? And was saying that from here on, our future generations, for our future generations, there's always going to be an abundance of life. Life, just lots of little kids, generation after generation, brought up in the Torah.
What's a good life to you? What does it mean to have a good life? Just let's bring it down to a simple.
Sound mind.
Sound mind?
Sound mind.
Yep.
Peace.
Peace. Shalom. We know shalom has a lot of meanings, right? You're at peace because everything around you is right. Yeah? Talking about health, talking about finances, talking about relationships, you know, peace of mind where you're living, a roof over your head, right? A car to to dry, that doesn't break down. Right? Your pantry, reasonably full. Warm beds, warm clothes. The comforts of life and home. A good wife, good children. Little stress. That's a good life, as far as I'm concerned. If you're there, you're rich. Doesn't matter how much money you got. You know, because you can be the richest man on earth and have a terrible life. Right? We know that. In fact, the most rich men in the world are the most miserable people on the earth, because they live constantly with their head on the money. You know, who's stealing from them? Where's that money going to? They sleep with one eye open. They can't even trust their own families. Right, so shalom has to do a lot with what he has provided for you, whether he is in charge of your life or not. And in dealing with health of body and spirit, we need to come to the understanding that he came to give us life and life abundant. But what does that mean? It means shalom. Right? And what do we need to get shalom? We need to have all these things right in our lives, right? Which we call the blessings. Yeah? That's what we call a blessing. Would you agree with that? A rich young ruler or a rich young man came to Yeshua and asked him, what must I do to inherit eternal life? We're talking about life, abundant, life eternal. What must I do to inherit life eternal? That's in Matthew 19. So if we go there now, I'll read it. 16 to 30.
What verse?
16 to 30, Matthew 19. 16, yeah.
16 to 30.
Chapter 19, 16 to 30.
Mary?
Yep. Loud, please.
And see, one came and said to him, Good teacher, what good shall I do to have everlasting life? And he said to him, Why do you call me good? No one is good except one, Elohim. But if you want to enter into life, guard the commandments. And he said to him, Which? And Yeshua said, You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness. Respect your father and your mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. The young man said to him, All these things I have watched over from my youth. What do I still lack? Yeshua said to him, If you want to be perfect, go sell what you have and give to the poor, and you shall have the treasure in the heaven. And come follow me. And when the young man heard the word, he went away sad because he had many possessions. And Yeshua said to his Talmud, Truly I say to you, that it is hard for a rich man to enter into the reign of the heavens. And again I say to you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than a rich man to enter into the reign of Elohim. And when his Talmud heard it, they were very astonished, saying, Who then will be able to be saved? looking intently, Yeshua said to them, "With men this is impossible, but with him all is possible." And Kepha answering said to him, "See, we have left all and followed you. Then what then shall we have?" And Yeshua said to them, "Truly I say to you, when the son of Adam sits on the throne of his esteem, you who have followed me in the restoration shall sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And anyone who has left houses or brothers or sisters or fathers or mothers or wife or children or land, for my name's sake shall receive 100-fold and inherit everlasting life. But many who are first shall be lost, and lost first."
Amen. Alright, quite a bit of stuff in there, but a couple of things that come up to mind is good. That word. Why do you call me good? There's only one who is good. Right? And then he said, if you want to be perfect, the first thing you need to do is guard the commandments, and then sell all your possessions and give them to the poor. Why would he tell them to sell everything?
It's ruining him.
Because he wouldn't have two gods, he would have just one.
Right? Sell the inheritance of your father. Everything your father worked hard. Why would Yeshua ask the young man to do that?
That was his idol?
His idol? Yeah. What else? Remember the scripture that says, where your heart is, your treasure is also?
You're serving two gods.
Yeah, you cannot serve two masters. You either love one and hate the other. You cannot serve God and Mammon, the god of money.
You also will be depending on him, not the money side.
Yeah. Abraham was one of the richest men on the earth. So was Solomon. Money doesn't corrupt you. It's your heart that corrupts you. Right? It's where your heart is. That's the issue. If your heart is in the money and in your riches and in what you can do to get more riches, if your heart is in that, you've made that an idol, then you can't enter into the kingdom of heaven. Who would want to live with a guy like that forever? Anyone? I would want to live with a guy like that. Self-centered, always thinking about money. He'd sell his own mother for some money. Right, where the heart is, so your treasure shall be also. That doesn't apply just to money, by the way. It applies to everything. Where your heart is, the thing that you spend the most time thinking about and working on in your life, where your heart is, that's where your treasure is. And if that is not God, then your heart is not in Him. So keep that in mind. Guarding the commandments is only part of it. Your heart and the condition of your heart, that's the real deal. Where is your heart at? Right, because part of healing is we need to keep the commandments, right? It says, if you keep the commandments, these things shall come, right? These blessings shall come on you. So we get the blessings by keeping the commandments, but then there's another level where we have to have a relationship where He has to be our treasure. If God is not our treasure, then our hearts are in the wrong spot. Okay? Who defines what is good?
Father.
Abba defines what is good?
Yep.
How can we look at that? How can we say that?
Well, when he did the first 6 days of work,
Yeah, very good.
he talks about this is good and then he says very good when he makes man.
After he makes man, yeah.
He defines it right from the outset.
Genesis 1:4. First mention. Very good. Good.
Cool.
Right. Can we read that one? Just very quickly.
Genesis 1:4.
Mm-hmm.
And Elohim saw the light that it was good, and Elohim separated the light from the darkness.
Elohim saw the light that it was good. The light is Aleph Tav, or
Playing with Tracy's mind there. It's like totally.
looking at from the Hebrew it goes that way. Aleph Tav. So Aleph Tav is Yeshua, right?
Yes. The head of authority.
And Ta is the, and Or is light. The light of Yeshua, or the light belonging to Yeshua. So God saw the light of Yeshua and said it was good. Right, because got the Aleph Tav, and Yeshua said, I am the Alpha and the Omega, right? The beginning and the end. That Alpha and Omega is actually a Hebrew idiom for the Aleph Tav, which is an untranslated word in the Bible, right? It's a word that is not translated in the Bible. It's a possessive, what is it, article? It belongs to. So the light belongs to Yeshua. And God said it was good. It's the first mention of that. Then we look at all the other days, and I think the second day is skipped, but every other day is good.
Let's go outside.
Of creation. And then is 131, verse 31. Verse 31.
And Elohim saw all that he had made, and see, it was very good. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the sixth day.
So when Elohim saw all that he had created, it was very good. It wasn't just good, it was very good. Right? When all things were together, when the fullness of creation was done, it was all very good, after man had been created as well. Everything was in order. What's the first thing after it was very good? Genesis chapter 2, verse 2.
And in the seventh day Elohim completed his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made.
Right, he rested on the seventh day. What's the word for rested?
Shabbat.
Shabbat. It's actually YHWH, which comes from Shabbat. Ishbot, that's in a different tense, but Va or Wa. What? Ishbot. This part is from Shabbat. Put two B's actually. Right? Why Ishbot? He rested, he Shabbated, as we would mistranslate it. He Shabbated on the seventh day. Right? So after it was very good, the next thing after very good is Shabbat. So Shabbat is beyond good, so to speak. It's not just good, it's not just very good, it's beyond that, right? And he hallowed it, set it apart. And then he said, this shall be a sign between me and my people, yeah?
Amen.
Back to John there, he said, I am the door. The fourth commandment is Shabbat. Right, it says that when he comes back, he will give to each one as they have done, but he says, come into my rest, my Shabbat, my Ishbot, come into my rest. There's another verse that says that it is yet set out for the children of God to have a day of rest. Right? Messiah has given them a day of rest that is to come. So we're talking about Shabbat. So Shalom, life abundant, is tied up with the fullness of creation and beyond what is beyond good, which is the Shabbat. Right? How beautiful is that? When God calls us to spend time with Him, He's not just telling us, oh, just come and have a religious gathering. He's calling you to a life of abundance. He's calling you to a place that is beyond good, which is Shabbat. Why would you want to be anywhere else? The root of the word Shabbat, it's a two-letter word. Who would guess what the two-letter word is? Shabbat. Shab. Just a short form. Like an R pronunciation. Shab. Shab means to sit. Sit down. Take a rest. Shabbat in the pictograph Hebrew is the shin, which is, what is the shin?
Teeth.
Teeth. To cut or to press, like when you press it into something, you're biting into something. Beit is the what?
The house.
The house. A place to dwell in, right? And the tav,
Cross.
Covenant.
the cross, the covenant, yeah. So what do you think that word means, Shabbat?
To make a covenant with rest in the house of the Lord.
What's the shin?
To make a covenant, to cut a covenant.
Yeah, so shin tav means to cut a covenant. What's shin?
Teeth.
Yeah, we said to cut
Separate.
or to press.
Yeah.
Just take the word press. Press into
House of the Lord. The house of the covenant.
the house. Very good. Of the covenant. What do we do every Shabbat when we come together?
We intentionally come.
Yep, we press in.
Yeah.
We leave aside everything else that we're doing, and we come, we set ourselves apart, we pray to come in on Friday nights, Right? We do ceremony to separate the holy from the mundane. Yeah? We light up the candles, we sing the songs, we worship Him, we read His Word, we're pressing into the covenant. Right? We walked into His house, we are pressing into the house of the covenant, into the house of Yeshua. Right? That's what Shabbat is. We press into the house of the covenant. Why do we need to press?
Because that's the fourth commandment.
Yeah. It says to remember. Right? It's the only one that says to remember. Remember. Why would He tell us to remember?
He knew that we forget.
Because He knew that something was going to happen and we'd forget about it. Right? They have forgotten my law. It says in the prophets. Right? We need to press in. It takes action. You have to do it. You have to prepare for it. You have to. Right? It's not a thing that just happens automatically. Oh, it's Shabbat. Awesome. Go to sleep. Right? It's not that. You have to actually prepare your house, your meal for 2 days. You have to press into it. But, right? It takes action. Intention. Right? You have to do it. You have to guard it. Right? It says guard the fourth commandment. Guard. Right? You have to protect it. Right? When they call you for birthday parties, for whatever else they call you to do on the Shabbat, and you have to fend them off and say, sorry, Shabbat is holy. I keep the Shabbat holy. Doesn't matter what comes my way, the Shabbat is holy. It's not to be messed around with. It's the day that He has established for me to be with Him. I will not miss it. Right? You have to press into it. You have to leave aside everything else. You have to fight off those things that come to you, the extra work, the extra money, the extra hours, double shifts or triple shifts or whatever. Right? It takes effort. The family won't be happy if I keep the Shabbat on this day because they planned it for me to be there. Well, to that, your God has planned it for you to be there. Who's more important, your family or God? So you have to know when to have the family and when to have God as priority.
Where does it say to guard the covenant?
Guard the commandments. So the word for keeping the commandments in the Old Testament, everywhere where it says keep the commandments, that word keep means to guard. It's actually guard, not keep. You are to keep the commandments. So Deuteronomy chapter 6 is one good example of that one. Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy 6:4.
Actually, 6:2 is got it. So that you reveal Elohim, your Elohim to God, all His laws and His commandments which I command you.
What verse?
6:2?
6:2.
6:2.
To keep all His statutes?
Yeah, that word keep means to guard. It's a Hebrew word that means to guard. That's the literal translation.
Is it the same with to obey, to keep, to obey, to God? What's the...
In the Hebrew, whenever it's been translated to keep the commandments, the word used for keeping the commandments there is God. Obey is a different word, but it's not always translated as obey. So it's not translated as keep. So you would have in English, you would have keep or obey, the two different Hebrew words. The one that is for keep means to God, to stand God, which is
to defend, to guard, to defend, to protect.
To make sure that nothing
to heed,
will break it.
heed
Like a
or
guard.
obey.
When you guard it, it's something treasure to you. It's like a treasure you're holding fast. No one's going to get it from you. So you're guarding it. You're holding it close to you.
So there's two words, guard or keep.
Keep is more like, you do it step by step, but guarding is like turning around, making sure nothing is going to stop you from keeping that commandment.
So that word there is God. Can anybody tell me the actual Hebrew word for God there?
Shomer.
Shomer, yeah.
You could have said that earlier.
I could have. I did. No,
Did
it
he?
was me.
Make sure that
So Shomer.
Make sure
That's
that
right,
nothing will break.
Yeah, nothing will interfere.
Keep the dog good.
So that's the Hebrew there. The Hebrew word Shomer means to God.
Stole me off.
So in the Hebrew text, it's that's the word in there.
Yeah, Shomer.
Shemer, in the Hebrew Bible.
Yeah. He who keeps Israel shall not slumber nor sleep. He who guards Israel shall not slumber nor sleep.
Right in Hebrew. That's a beautiful language.
Shomer Israel.
So it's really he who guards.
Guards. He who guards.
Is that Psalm 1:1? Lift up my voice. To God.
From where it comes from.
Is that the same root word as Shema?
We'll get in there. No, it's not. Shomer is different to Shema. But Shema means to hear.
Yeah.
So that's what I was going to like here. Because similar root. Shema.
So when Jesus said to that rich man, but if you want to enter into life, keep the commandments. Guard the commandments.
Guard the commandments. Yeah. Protect the commandments. To protect the commandments, I mean, it's not hard, but it's sometimes hard in the sense of the families, because you get birthday parties coming up and weddings and Christmas, Easter, all this other stuff coming up, and well, it's on the Shabbat, or is a pagan practice, or it goes against the Torah in some way, and then the commandments need to be guarded about those things. So you gotta stand guard and say, look, I can't do that. These are my commandments. I have to keep these. Like Paul said, I must by all means keep this coming feast. I must by all means. Right? So to God sometimes is like
I must by all means
keep this coming feast. Paul said he kept it. So he was talking about this. He was talking about the feast of Shabbat, I think. Shabbat. He was Passover.
Yeah,
I must by all means
the other good one is Adam was asked to guard, the garden, whereas to keep it sort of means maybe sort of look after it, but he was actually to guard it because obviously the enemy came in and that's what he was to guard against.
Can you leave me where they are?
Guards guard things with their life.
Yep.
And if they were seen to break the commandments, especially the Sabbath, it would cost them their life.
Yep.
Like
That's why it says pray that your flight is not during Shabbat.
Yeah, so it is a matter of life and death.
Yeah. You can get to it.
So if you're going to guard something,
the point is that we get tagged along by everything in life, right? The job, the family, the extended family, the friends, and not everybody is in Torah, so people that are not in Torah are going to be doing things usually on the Sabbath, on the Shabbat. So what do we do? Do we yield to our friendships and to work? Do we yield to those things and we're just going to be outside of the Shabbat for a little bit, and we sort of, or we're at the edge of the Shabbat just waiting to get out to go and do that other thing, so that our minds are not in what we need to be doing. This is the point of our guarding. We need to make sure that the Shabbat is a set apart time. Nothing can interfere with that from beginning to end. It is Shabbat. It is not my time. It is time to be with Messiah. That's it. End of story. Nothing can take that. I don't care what comes, who comes, Yeah.
Like the different translations of different interpretations of what is allowed and what is not allowed.
That's a different story. What is allowed, what is not allowed. The specifics are there for us to listen to and to understand. It's not hard to keep.
Are we keeping what they kept?
Of course.
So the one commandment.
The differences are the settings, where they were in the wilderness, when they began to keep the Shabbat, or when they again started to keep the Shabbat, and we're not in the wilderness, like people coming out of Egypt. We're not in danger of being chased around by enemies, that kind of stuff. So some of the rules won't apply to us because we're not in that setting, which applied to them. But again, we gotta do the best we can where we are at. Always try to do the best we can where we are at.
The only reason I asked is because I was doing some research yesterday and found that they say that even if you are carrying something in your pocket in the Shabbat, it's deemed as you're breaking the Shabbat.
That's Jewish.
That's in Jeremiah. That's from the text in Jeremiah. You shall not carry a load out of your house on the Shabbat. Alright, two things that you need to understand. There's another Bible verse that talks about that load, and it's actually to do with work, right? Paid work. So work for profit. But regardless of that, you have to understand two things. The time that they were living in. Jeremiah's time, Jerusalem was being rebuilt. They had lost their faith. They had no idea. They didn't even have the Torah. Right? They had to find it. They found the Torah, and then they kept. It says that they kept Sukkah. When they found out that it was Sukkah. Right? So Jeremiah came into a time where they had no idea about the Torah. They read the Torah, and then they had to enforce it. So because they had to enforce it, they found themselves in the middle of all this turmoil that was going on. They had brought Babylonian wives and children that didn't speak Hebrew, and there were all kinds of weird and wonderful things. He actually tells them, put away your foreign wives and put away your bastard children, because you didn't choose to give them the Hebrew. right? Therefore, the bastards just send them back out to their houses, back to Babylon, right? And so they had to. They actually had to get rid of their wives and children, or leave with them, either way. But what Jeremiah was doing was creating a set-apart people again, because they had been corrupted, right? And then when he's talking about the Shabbat day, even though they were keeping the Shabbat, they were still buying and selling on the Shabbat. They had merchants coming into the city, right? So what does he do? He closes the whole city down and puts guards around the city, and to the penalty of death. If anybody comes into the city to sell anything, they will be put to death.
Could they keep those wives and children if they crossed over? Could they come in?
No, at that time, no. He told them to get out, so they could live with them. Maybe later on, I guess. But at the time, it was very hard. But the thing is, what his task was very hard too. He had to actually set some rules.
That's like the last chapter of Nehemiah.
Yeah.
It's very graphic.
It's full on. It's full on. But sometimes this is the thing people don't understand. Torah is divisive. Torah is not for the faint-hearted. It divides households.
Not hippie love.
You know, it divides. The Father said he would. Yeshua said he would divide. I came to bring a sword. A father shall be against his son, right? And so on and so forth. So the thing is that during the time of Nehemiah, these things were going on. They were selling and all this stuff. So Nehemiah puts up certain things to stop that from happening. Does that mean we have to do it nowadays? To a point, yes. But more importantly, it's not a Torah itself. It was what's it called, the other one?
Righteous ruling, a right ruling.
Right ruling, that's it. For the time and seasons they were living in, to safeguard them. Right? So carrying something out in your pockets on the Shabbat, I don't think it's a problem, right? Unless you're gonna be using that to make other people work, to buy or sell, eat, then it shouldn't be a problem. Right? Carrying your Mikey out shouldn't be a problem. Yep. Carrying your wallet out of your house shouldn't be a problem.
Your license.
Your license out of your house shouldn't be a problem. Right? If you have to put up, you got rotten stuff inside your house and it's got maggots. I mean, for God's sake, man, just throw it out. We can take it to extremes. It can be extreme, right? This is what the Jews end up doing, right? To guard the commandments, they added more commandments to guard those commandments and so on and so forth. And then we ended up with 2,000 plus commandments on the Shabbat. When the Shabbat is very simple to keep.
Sit.
Just sit, rest.
So catching transport is a no-no.
Catching a train, you're making someone else work. So that's the problem with that one. Because you're actually making someone else work.
And if the rule is the same from back then to now...
Yeah. This is the thing too. We're all coming out from the nations. We're all coming out, working up in the nations. There's still a lot of stuff we need to work out. So there is mercy and grace to all this stuff. So this is the other thing. When you are pushing something, it must be done, it must, The thing is, where are we guys? We're out in the nations. We're still exiles. So we're doing the best we can where we are. But, in doing so, we are learning, and as we learn, we adjust our load. So there shouldn't be any judgment of any of this stuff. But yeah, if we are guarding the commandments, you guard them for yourself, between you and Messiah.
That's the judgment. We cannot judge one another. It's between you and
the judges can judge. There are judges. God does appoint judges to make judgments in regards to different things, right? But there is no judgmentalism between one another. That shouldn't be there.
But if someone gets up now and says, I better go to the shops and buy milk because there's no milk.
Yeah. We can make a judgment. Brother, you can stay outside because we're not bringing that milk into this house.
It's cold outside.
Well, you can leave the milk to rot outside.
You can wait 2 hours.
Yeah. It's when we talk about bringing drinks with 120.
Did you buy milk too?
Someone may have bought
talking about judgment.
Someone showed me. It's me, it was me. I'm confessing my sins.
Well, I didn't prepare this teaching with anyone in mind. So let's put that out there.
Pablo, can I say something to the point what you're saying?
I feel I have been exposed today.
Last year we were actually looking and watching a lot of the NTI, and on 2 occasions we saw teachings from Steve that he said that for some reason people or our brothers and sisters have come in, as he said, from different walks of life. We are getting it together, but we're not there yet. But some of the spins, as he calls it, of Shabbat is like, bless you. He said there was one time somebody wrote, am I breaking Shabbat if I go and spend time with the Lord in the countryside? I'll normally do bike riding, I'll take my bike. Is that, and he said, normally how many days do you do this? He says, I ride every morning. So if you do that every morning, why would you want to do that on the Shabbat?
Yeah.
Could you not abstain from doing that?
Yeah.
So it's a matter of how much importance of I want to keep on doing what I want regardless of what Jehovah says.
That's a good one.
So it's the will that we have to submit on that day for it's been set apart for us to be with Him.
Well, it tells you that in Isaiah, I think it is, where it says, if you shall remove your foot from doing your own pleasure.
Yeah, it's not about us.
Shabbat.
It's about Him.
Yeah, so there are simple things that we need to do.
But in that case, like that guy, he had a bit of a confusion, but he brought it to the table so that everyone could make a judgment.
Yeah. So
But I think sometimes they do also to testing, because he said there are, you should see the number of emails that I get of people saying they push to see how much they can go. And I think that's the point that he was trying to make. Not that so much it is, trying to sort of be submissive, but it's, what if I do this? Is that
How far can I take it?
How far can I push it before I can actually break Shabbat?
Let's talk about birthdays. Someone asks, what about a birthday? Well, who's the birthday about?
It's not about him, that's
it's
for
about
sure.
Yeshua, it's about a person.
What about the engagement party that you were going to go to next week and you were going to go after Shabbat? And all
After
the children
Shabbat.
are going...
After Shabbat, that's after sunset.
That's not a problem.
Yeah, I know. But it still does lose your focus a little bit, though.
You can, it just depends on your heart.
As long as you don't spend the whole day thinking about it, getting ready for that.
You gotta guard your heart in the middle of that. It gets hard, but again, there is mercy for all this stuff, guys. So if we fail, that's okay. Don't feel bad.
The Jewish people, the Orthodox Jews, they take it to the extreme because of just in case.
Yeah. So they put protections on the protections.
You can't do more than 300 paces.
But some people it'd be good for, like me, whereas Nathan doesn't need that, like different personality types.
I think that's fine. I mean, we're not judging what they do. What they do is what they do. The thing that I would judge with Judaism and the Jews, my brothers, let's not forget that, they are our brothers, is that what they do puts a burden on people. And the problem with that burden is that people can't carry that burden. They don't carry it themselves because they break it nilly-willy. However they feel like they break it. They have no regards when it comes to breaking it.
Well, there's so many, they're bound to break one of them.
They just break it, not a problem.
2,000 laws.
They keep the bulk, but they're okay to break the most important ones here or there, if it suits them. I think that's a bit of hypocrisy in one sense. The other thing is that because they add so many rules, people with good hearts, with good intentions, they become bound by those to the point that they can't breathe. And then the children suffer, the families suffer, right? And I think that's the problem.
That's what each.
That's the problem. The other problem I have is they change authority. They put all their authority on a man rather than Messiah or God himself. Right? So that the man has more authority than God. Right? Literally, that's what it says in the Talmud. That this man have more authority than God. That's preposterous to me. You know, that breaks the Torah in so many ways. But anyway. And they add and take away from the Torah nilly-willy, however they like. And I think that's a problem. Beyond that, what they do on a day-to-day basis, you know, that doesn't break the commandments. It's not to be judged. I mean, in some cases it's to be admired because they have such dedication towards the Word of God and towards loving their Father. I personally wouldn't go down that far. I don't think it's necessary. But yeah. Alright, let's get back to the study. To rest, Shabbat. There's another word that is spelled almost the same, except for, so Shabbat is Shin, Beit, Tav. Right, that's Shabbat. There's another word spelled exactly the same called Shabbat. It just changes the vowel point. Shabbat to the, that's not the point there. We sang it today. Anybody picked it up?
Yeah. What do we sing today?
Hinei Matov, Uma Naim, Shevet, Shevet Achim, right? Shevet Achim.
Dressing my brothers.
It is translated together, right? Together, which goes with the understanding of pressing into each other, right? Together, Shevet.
Like
Together.
A school of fish.
Yep. Together in unity. Together, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad, as one. Together. As brothers, as one. It means to dwell together, to rest, to sit, to rest, to dwell. Press into the house, right? Press into the house of the covenant. Then there's another word pronounced Shevet. Shevet means a rod. What does a rod have to do with anything?
Correction.
Correction. Right? What did the 12 tribes of Israel have? What did the 12 tribes of Israel have?
The staff.
The staffs. The tribal staffs.
Instead of shepherd to look.
The leader of each tribe had to bring to Moses a rod. Right? And which one was the one that budded?
The one of Aaron.
Aaron's rod budded, right? What type of rod was it? What type of tree?
Almond.
It was...
Yeah, almond. Almond tree. So he bloomed. He had a leaf. He bloomed, and the fruit came out all at once. So the rod, it can also be translated as stripes. the tribes. Shabbat has to do with the tribes. Right? To dwell with your brothers, to dwell in the tribes. Right? The stick or the staff. Or the staff. What does the staff do in the ancient Hebrew? The lamed, right? The letter lamed, the staff of the shepherd.
It used to bring the sheep together, but it used to protect them as well.
Yeah.
Against
So
any kind of animal
you got
predator.
twofold, right? You protect them, you guard with the staff.
And you defend.
Right? And you gather. So you gather and you guard. Right? Gather and guard. So why do we gather on the Shabbat?
Before the Shabbat.
To guard the commandments. We gather on the Shabbat to guard the commandments. Again, it's the same idea. We gather together to guard the commandments. Again, it brings you back to Shabbat. Let's read the last verse of Psalm 133. From where the Lord, there the Lord.
See how good.
Alright, we'll read it all. As long as more. Yeah.
133?
Yeah, 133.
See how good and how pleasant it is for brothers to live together in unity. It is like the precious oil on the head that ran down on the beard, even Aaron's beard, that came down on the edge of his robes. Like the dew of Hermon that comes down on the hills of Zion. For there Adonai gives a blessing, even life forevermore.
Right, so you want to be healthy, have a good life, a good long life. This is the place where God commands a blessing. When brothers dwell together in unity. Right, in the place we call Shabbat. This is why Shabbat is so important, guys. There God commands a blessing, Yehovah commands a blessing, life forevermore. Right? Why life forevermore? Where does that bring you to in your mind? Life forevermore.
Eternity.
Eternity, yep.
Abundant life.
The abundant life, yep.
Heaven. Yeah?
Heaven, yep. Life forevermore. To live forever with Him. The blessings of Yehovah are forever. So what is good?
Keep it at Shabbat.
Keeping the Shabbat.
Together.
Together. What He said was good, right?
Yeah.
What He said, these are my commandments. That's what He said. It was good, right?
It all comes down to obedience, right?
We're going to look at a few verses where He talks about what is good.
So ultimately what is good is God. Is Adonai. His word is good.
Yeah. Who is His word?
He invented good.
Sure.
So
Yeshua is the word of God made flesh, right?
yeah. And He even said, why do you call me good shepherd? There's only one good.
Yeah. In other words, are you calling me the Messiah? Are you calling me God?
So are you saying that that's been read wrong? With the wrong inflection?
No, right.
Depending on the translation.
No, I mean the actual way that we say it.
Yeah, because of the translations,
Yeah.
that's how the interpretation is going to go.
Yeah.
So good is righteousness. So it's also means
What verse is it?
to be
In?
right.
John
Psalm
10.
136.
John 10, is
John
it?
10. John 10, 9 to 11. What about
I'll still
She's so loud.
what is good in the eyes of a jihadist?
Become a martyr.
Martyrdom.
Not only their martyrdom, but killing, right?
I think you read that in Spanish. It's a
what is good in the eyes of what do I call them? Militant Catholics.
like fanatics.
Fanatics. What's good in the eyes of militant Catholics?
They good deeds.
No.
That they praise the Pope.
Obedience to the Mother Church.
To the mothership.
As him being God on earth.
Yep. The one with the fancy hat.
To say the least.
And the city of gold.
Right? Got it right. Right? They kill as well. They cheat. They will do whatever they can to turn people from other religions to Catholicism, same as the jihadists. Alright. What's good in the eyes of militant or extreme Protestants? Extreme Protestants.
To follow Jesus.
Jesus?
To follow Jesus because that's the way they were being taught.
Grace.
And once saved, always saved.
Denomination.
Doctrine.
Obedience to the doctrine has nothing to do with Messiah. They don't care about Messiah. It's all about the doctrines. Right?
What Paul said.
Yeah. We're talking about radical Protestantism, right? So you got the people in, where is it? Not England, what's the other country next door?
Ireland.
Ireland?
Ireland.
Where they are fighting the Catholics with the Protestants. They kill each other, they murder each other. Right? Obedience to their doctrines and their ethos. We're not gonna go there. Right? The Holocaust was funded by none other than the Protestant Church. The first campaigns of Hitler against the Jews were all funded by the Orthodox Christians of Russia and all the, what's it called? What are they called?
The Lutherans.
Yeah, the Lutherans and that, Orthodox. It was Protestants that made the Holocaust possible. No wonder why the Jews don't want to know about Messiah. What about good in the eyes of society?
You don't kill anyone.
Money.
You don't kill anyone as long as it's not a baby.
Well, that's not a person according to Torah. It's still unborn. So
Baby killing is okay.
Yeah, that's right.
What about all people killing?
Society.
With their consent.
Unless the baby.
With their consent.
All people killing with their consent? Yeah.
The law has now passed.
Gay marriage.
It's preposterous.
Killing families. Killing anything that is God. There's a mention of God. Let's read Genesis 3:6.
And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, and she took of its fruit and ate. And she also gave to her husband with her, and he ate.
It was good to the eyes, pleasant to the eyes. She saw it. I remember the eye is the lamp of the body. If the eye is good, good. We talked about it in the earlier parts of the study. What goes into your eyes?
Yeah.
Genesis 3:6. It was good in her eyes. Judges 17:6. You can find exactly the same in 21, 25. We're only going to read one.
In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did which was right in his own eyes.
There was no king, no one to set the Torah, no one to set the rules. So people did what was good in their eyes. Right? We all have many things that are good in our eyes. This is why it's so important that in the middle of all this, because people get caught up in what is good in their eyes. Right? And we are here. In the middle of all that. We are saying what is good. In his eyes. That is the truth. What is good in his eyes is the truth. So we're here in the middle of that. And we get caught up in that. Everyone wants to define what is good in their own eyes. What I think, what I saw on YouTube, what I heard with my itching ears. Yeah? What I understand from my own experience, from I can see his smirk. No, I'm not picking him up.
It's in YouTube.
What is good in his eyes? How are you going to know what is good in his eyes?
My girlfriend used to say, is it a good thing or a God thing? And for us, it's simple, because if it goes against this, we know it's not good.
It's not right.
Yeah.
Study the word so to be found approved. You study the word like a good Berean. This is why as the time gets harder and harder and we got more and more of these guys bringing up what's good in their eyes, you need to hold on to this like life depends on it. Life depends on it.
And what from?
Oh.
And your life does depend on it. Right? And as the time gets harder and harder, because there'll be more and more teachers coming out with all these weird and wonderful doctrines and interpretations of their own accord, this is when you have to be grounded and find the truth. Work hard at it, because it's not easy to find in the mix of all this, I call it vomit, that's out there. Because it is. It's regurgitated stuff from one person to another. One guy grabs it, the next person checks it out, and the next person grabs that and checks it out again. No one actually has done the hard work of researching and looking and finding out for themselves and trying to work out whether what they're listening to is true or not, and not just talking about one source and talking about, you know, multiple sources, and looking at pro and against arguments, and, you know, things that take time and effort. You know, but we're quick to grab whatever someone else has said and run with it, because it sounds good in our ears, right? That could be itching ears.
It's hard too, because as we're getting, you know, obviously this is a, you can say, something subject, but like when it comes to things like vaccinations and things, you have that crossover with Korea, or people now that are having babies that, you know, they've got to be vaccinated to go to school and stuff like that. And so things such as homeschooling is not necessarily a have to, but it is, but it's not. But you know what I mean? It's not clear, but it is clear to some. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was hard to explain. I didn't get that.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. There's some things that aren't necessarily clear to everyone. This is where hard work and dedication counts. You know.
Yeah.
When there are things that are hard in scripture, it just means that you have to work a little bit harder to get to it. That's all it means. It is there. I mean, pretty much everything is there for you to find it. You just have to know how to look and where to look and what
and maybe
to do.
it's like that bringing it to the table thing. That's why I like asking, like before, about the leaven. You know, because, you know, we might forget the Vegemite. Do you know what I mean? And it's like there's things, even like the money thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's just another subject just in itself, I think. You know, storing up your treasure and getting so rich, but then, you know, the other disciples, they brought it all together and all shit. You know what I mean? It's, how can you tell whether your heart's there? I don't know. Anyway, keep going.
And this is where coming to Passover is a good time, because we have to search our heart, you know, and do a bit of soul search. This is part of the reason why I did this study, because I didn't want to do this study anymore. I said last week, I think this is the last one. I might move on. I really was looking forward to doing the apologetics one, because that's a lot of fun. I like apologetics. But I had two dreams actually. During the week, and they sort of pushed me to do this, and I'll share the dreams in a second, because they sort of brought me back to, well, you know, to have a life that is good and a life that is abundant. It has to come from the heart first. It has to be born out of a relationship with the Messiah, not out of my own mind and what I, you know, think in my own thoughts, because the heart is deceitful above all things, right? Well, God knows my heart. Well, yes, He does. It's deceitful, right? Let's get that straight. It's deceitful. What you think, what you know, what your heart tells you is deceitful, and many times what you perceived as the Holy Spirit telling you something, it's actually your heart deceiving you. So how do you keep your heart in check? Well, you gotta know your stuff. It's not enough to just come on Shabbat and hear a little bit here and there. You actually have to be immersed in the Word, you know, every day of your life. You know, wrestling. That's what the Jews talk about, wrestling with the Word. Just like Jacob wrestled with God, right? We wrestle with the Word. It's not enough to just get a little bit every weekend, because then you start together, and you're gonna start making all kinds of weird and wonderful assumptions and mistakes. And then there's the other one, which is the sheep that likes to go away into their own path, wherever the heart leads them. And that is really comes down to two things: either pride or stubbornness, or a mixture of both, pride and stubbornness. We have to be submitted to one another in love. So, you know, we do this thing, like you said, bring something to the table and then discuss it all together.
Or
you can't do that if you're running away from the sheep.
You can get sucked into the system though too. Because like I feel like I'm totally in the world when I go to work every day. Because when I've been at home for 25 years, you know, this Christian homeschool mother, then I get given a job by God, I think. You know, just given this job because I think he wants to bless us financially. But it's in a childcare centre. So it goes against everything that I believe and stand for. You know, like, and I know I'm on borrowed time because as soon as they wake up and want to vaccinate the educators, I'm out. You know what I mean? But while I'm there, I have to stay switched on and in this all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because and come and go in every day and then come back out and go back after that piece. And then I've got to remind myself, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Don't spend the money, save it up because it can stop. But it is a real black and white worldly thing when you're seeing the babies abandoned every day, you know. But it can be good. I can get sucked in and think, oh, it's not that bad, it's beautiful. The educators love the babies, the children, but then I have to remember, no, this is actually evil. This is bad. Bad.
So there's a few verses. I'm just going to put them up because there's a lot to read, and I don't think we have the time for that. But we're just going to put some verses up. And then I'll tell you the dreams. They're very significant, I think.
Wow, okay, switched on.
Switch off. Alright, so Romans 7.
7 more. One of it.
It's going to give us
7 to
write down, not
12. If somebody wants to start reading them while I'm doing this, you're welcome to. This is a few. Verse 12 and verse 16. Defines what is good. Timothy 1:8. If you want to read it, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll just keep them.
So that the Torah truly is set apart and the command set apart and righteous and good. But if I do what I do not wish, I agree with the Torah that is good.
So the Torah is good. That's what is good.
And we know that the Torah is good if one uses it legitimately. Torah of YHWH is perfect, bringing back the being. The witness of YHWH is trustworthy, making wise simple. The orders of YHWH are straight, rejoicing the heart. The command of YHWH is clear, enlightening the eyes. The fear of YHWH is clean, standing forever. The right rulings of YHWH are true, they are righteous altogether. More desirable than gold, than much fine gold, and sweeter than honey and the honeycomb. Also your servant is warned by them, in guarding them there is great reward. He discerns mistakes, declare me innocent from those that are secret, and keep your servant back from presumptuous ones. Do not let them rule over me, then shall I be perfect and innocent of great transgressions. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing before you, O YHWH, my rock and my redeemer.
You have commanded your witnesses in righteousness and much truth.
Oh, there's this one for sure. We'll read the last two.
Good doctrine, what?
Guard my commandments.
And it shall be, because you hear these right rulings and shall guard and do them, that YHWH your Elohim shall guard with you the covenant and the loving commitment which he swore to your fathers, and shall love you and bless you and increase you, and shall bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your land, your grain and your new wine and your oil, the increase of your cattle and the offspring of your flock in the land of which he swore to your fathers to give you. Blessed are you above all peoples. There is not going to be a barren man or a barren woman among you or among your livestock. And YHWH shall turn away from you all sickness and put on you none of the evil diseases of Mitzrayim which you have known, but he shall put them on all those who hate you. And you shall consume all the peoples whom YHWH your Elohim is delivering over to you. Your eye shall not pardon them, and do not serve their mighty ones, for that is a snare to you. I hope that was a bit too far.
He shall turn away from you all sickness, and put none of the diseases of Egypt on you. If you want health, the ultimate health guide is this. Keep the commandments. He shall turn away from you sickness. Remember we said he was the author of health and sickness? Yeah? So sickness happens because he allows it, or he brings it. Comes as a consequence of sin, of the nation, of us personally, so on. Deterioration of mankind walking away from God. 2 Timothy 2, 1-10.
You then, my son, be strong in the favor that is in Mashiach Yeshua, and what you have heard from me among many witnesses. Entrust these to trustworthy men, who shall be competent to teach others as well. Suffer hardship as a good soldier of Yeshua HaMashiach. No one serving a soldier gets involved in the affairs of this life, in order to please him who enlisted him as a soldier. And if anyone competes in a game, he is not crowned unless he competes according to the rules. The hard-working farmer ought to be first to receive his share of the crops. Think over what I say, but the Master shall give you understanding into all this. Remember that Yeshua HaMashiach was the seed of David, was raised from the dead according to my good news, for which I suffer hardship as a criminal unto chains, but the word of Yehovah is not chained. So I endure through it all for the sake of the chosen, so that they too obtain deliverance, which is in Mashiach Yeshua, with everlasting esteem.
One deliverance. The ultimate guide for deliverance. What does it say about the soldier? That sounds very interesting to me. We got this soldier mentality, the man, right? Especially conquering, right? Subdue the earth, conquer it, like a soldier, good soldier. Remember the old songs? I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. Back in the 70s. Some of you guys are too young.
Even for us, the 70s would be some too young.
I was born 73.
Very young.
Young wolfers, snappers.
Right, a soldier, listen to those words, right? A soldier does not entangle himself in the affairs of life. Can I raise this, or you still writing them? That's all right.
A soldier follows orders.
It says that he might please him who enlisted him.
Yep. Follows orders.
Think about that. Messiah enlisted us for a purpose, right? He set a purpose in our hands for us to fulfill. That purpose is to share the good news that anyone can be grafted in.
Amen.
Yeah. He says at the beginning of that passage that we are to entrust this word to trustworthy men. Right? And I have to ask, am I a trustworthy person? You know, that I am guarding the commandments and teaching others to guard the commandments. This is what it says, who is greatest in the kingdom? Right? Those who teach the commandments, those who keep the commandments and teach others to do also, they shall be called the greatest, right? And those who don't keep the commandment and teach others not to do it, they shall be called the least in the kingdom. Right, so a soldier that entangles himself in the affairs of life, what does that mean to you?
He's not doing honor to him.
Yeah, not giving honor. What does it actually mean to entangle yourself in the affairs of life?
Follows the world.
Follow what the world does, yeah.
A good example of that is Daniel. Although he was for 70 years in captivity, he was able to speak to two kings, Nebuchadnezzar and the King Cyrus, the Persian king, and they both followed Yehovah after he actually consistently spoke to them about the living God. And he was able, even though he was in a different land with a different culture, being oppressed, in not having to be free, but he continued serving Yehovah.
He became a good witness.
That's right. He's a good soldier.
Yep. What else can you say? What's the affairs of life?
Hustle and bustle of everyday life.
Yeah. So a good soldier does not entangle himself with the affairs of life.
A soldier is destined, not destined, but as a hazard of the job, is death. To preserve life. So you don't want to be entangled into it because it will affect you, how you...
For all intents and purposes, the soldier is taught that he is dead.
Yeah.
Right? Dead man walking. Right? What does Yeshua tell us to do with the old man?
He must die.
Put it to death.
Yeah.
Right? So the thing is this, when we come to the affairs of life, right? We call it the hustle and bustle and whatever else, right? The work, the children, the family. Right? Yeshua said about the family, right? If you don't hate your family, you're not worthy of the kingdom of heaven, right? And we know that that's not a literal hate thing, but in comparison, he says, if you're not to guard the commandments in spite of your family, if your family comes before the commandments, and they've become an idol, then you're no longer qualified to be part of the kingdom. Right? It's a hard thing. It's really hard to understand that. But he says, a good soldier does not entangle himself with the affairs of life. What about the whole thing about the legalities, with the government and fighting politics? And isn't that the affairs of life?
Distractions.
Distractions.
Did God call us to go and fight the government?
He actually says, pray for the government and he sees what he sees and God what is God.
What about the thing about a priesthood, right? We're a kingdom of priests, right? Or royal priesthood, right? A kingdom of priests. What does a priest do?
Intercedes.
Yes. Intercedes and serves the people. Intercedes before God and serves the people. What does he serve in regards to? In regards to getting the people closer to God. Right?
Yep.
That's the role of a priest. So if we are a royal priesthood, do we need to be fighting in men's wars and do we need to be worried?
About it, but
we need to be wise. Right? Unless the war comes to the temple, right? Then we'll fight for the temple, right? The Maccabees.
We're fighting for life then.
Yeah.
Nehemiah.
But do we need to be concerned with the world? The evils that are in the world. Well, the world is evil, we know that. Because it's a fallen world. Do we need to be worried about what they're doing?
No. We're
Concerned about it. Do we need to do anything about what they're doing? Is that what God called us to do? No, I'll say no. What God called us to do is to spread the message of salvation, that anyone can be grafted in. Why? Because in doing that, in bringing people to keep the commandments, we are bringing the blessing back into the land. Right? And instead of worrying about the symptoms of the sickness, we are actually bringing the cure. Because if people turn from the evil ways and begin to keep the commandments, they're turning away from the evil, they're going back to the good. And God's blessing will come. Right? When Abraham went to speak with God about Sodom and Gomorrah, he said, if there were 10 righteous ones in that city, which you destroyed. And God said, for the sake of those 10. Imagine that, a whole city and 10 guys could have saved it.
Yeah, but he didn't find 10.
10 guys. He didn't find 10. Right? Sometimes we overlook the importance of those who keep the commandments. Right? And we get caught up in everything else to the detriment of this, to our own detriment. Because if our focus is on the things of the world, we'll lose the plot. God called us to be righteous, to be intercessors before Him. That's our role. That's our job. To be intercessors before Him, for the people. And to serve the people, to bring them closer to Him. That's it. That's the end of it. We want healthy communities. We want healthy people in the body. We want a healthy body of Messiah. That's what we need to do. Yeah?
The people who went out and founded the New World went out with, they were righteous men. They went out with the word of God. Now they did some horrible things, but we're able to reap the benefits of a society that was based on that word.
Those men were just as evil.
Eh?
Those men were evil. They murdered, they raped, they killed anything that stood in their sight. And just because they carried the Bible didn't make them righteous. They were Christians, they were not Messianic.
So we are living in a society that was based on like a cousin of the Torah. Our Constitution is written based on that.
Pseudo-Torah.
Yeah. So we have
still the system of Babylon. That's why it's, you know.
So we should not. You're saying that we have no. We shouldn't be trying to change or to better our situation. We should just let them do what they're doing.
This is the thing, right? We're an army. If we are soldiers of the Lord, we're an army under the command of Messiah. Is Messiah here yet? No. So we sit. We Shabbat. We sit and wait. We Shabbat. This is what He told us to do. Guard my commandments. Sit and wait for my return. When He returns, He will gather His elect. When He returns, He will come with 10,000 of His saints. He comes to do judgment. It's not our time or our place to begin judgments.
So we guard it with our life.
We guard His commandments.
With our life. When they're murdering children, babies, infants, unborn, are we not meant to be guarding that?
No. Are there our children?
So it
we
is.
still have to, but
to a point.
Yeah.
If it's your children, you guard your children. Right, but during the time when Messiah was being born, when Moses was being born,
still doing it, yeah.
They were killing children. Did God send some messenger to destroy them because they were killing the children? No, He waited His time. So it is not up to us to decide when to act and when not to act. We're soldiers under command. He is the general of the army, right? When Joshua was there and he asked them, are you for us or against us? What did Yeshua say? Neither. But as the commander of the armies of the Lord, I have now come. Right? You will do this and you will do that. So we are here waiting for Messiah's instructions. We're not to entangle ourselves in the affairs of the world. However the world does evil or doesn't do evil, it is hard to see, but it's not our concern.
I love this scripture. It says, make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. You should mind your own business and work with your hands, just as we told you, so that your daily life may win the respect of outsiders and so you won't be dependent. But what you're talking about, God says vengeance is mine, says the Lord. And if we take vengeance, then we're stealing from God, so we're breaking the commandments.
Yeah. Well, I'm not talking about
taking his vengeance. But they're not.
I'm saying if they're trying to say that it's all right to
evil overcomes when righteous men do nothing.
Abort a term baby.
Yeah.
Well, obviously you have a say,
so
an opinion.
that's saying
we have a vote,
Yeah.
because we live in a democracy. We don't live in a kingdom as such.
That's saying evil comes when good men do nothing. It's not in the Bible. First of all.
It is or it's not?
It's not.
Oh.
It's not in the Bible.
Isn't that
but it does say to open your mouth up for those who don't have.
But it's talking about the community. Whenever God is speaking in the Torah or in the prophets or in the Nevi'im, in the writings or in the New Testament, He's talking about the congregation of the saints. He's not talking about the general world. He's talking about those who are redeemed. Okay, so the things that you are to do within the ranks of the redeemed, not with the outsiders. Right? Because you can eat a lamb or a sheep that dies in your field, but you can sell it to the nations because they eat whatever. So it's okay for you to sell it to them, but it's not okay for you to sell it or to give it to one of your brothers or sisters because we are guarding the commandments.
So what if you're a politician and you become Torah observer?
You gotta leave it.
You gotta leave politics.
Yeah, it's simple.
So
you're not to entangle yourself in the affairs of life.
The politicians in Israel,
they're all evil. We know that. Everybody knows that. They're all Illuminati. They're all, you know. The whole Knesset is set up in a what's it called? The whole Knesset is set up in a way that it's what's this guy? The Freemasons. So the whole Knesset, even the building itself, is a Freemason worship place. So we know that. You know, none of the politicians in the world are actually godly men, and the ones that came up to be godly men, they were killed or destroyed.
Because it's very hard to be a politician because you
system
have to be out of the system for one day a week. You have to be out of the system on Shabbat, Friday. For 24 hours, you've got to be out of the system.
If we are the bride, we are only to be concerned with the things of the groom.
That's right.
And not to tangle with things of the world. And so
when a bride is preparing herself, she doesn't care what's going on outside. She's just prepared about her beautifying herself, making sure she's pure.
if there's an army at the city walls, she'll be concerned with what's happening.
She'll be concerned, but the job is not hers because women don't go out to war. Women don't go out to war in the Torah.
Remember when was it?
It is the man.
Was it Mary that washed the feet of Yeshua with her hair?
Yeah. She dried with the hair.
And one of the disciples said, "She's wasting." Who was it?
That's Judas.
Of course it was Judas.
Judas the treasurer.
Of course it was Judas, yes. And he said, "Why are you wasting that perfume? We could sell that perfume. We could feed the poor. We could do all this money."
Here with you guys under this time.
For a little while.
The poor you have with you always. There'll always be need.
So which
There'll always be poor.
There'll always be need
Your
in the
concern
world.
has to
Give to him first.
He's our priority. That's the way it works. He's our priority.
But obviously, if you're walking down the street and you see somebody,
well, if you have to vote, if you have to go to the polls and vote for the right person, right?
Yeah.
For the right thing.
The one who's selling you the best picture.
The least evil kind of thing. You know, if you get a say, give a good say. You know, if you get the opportunity to speak and influence some people, then do that. Influence people, right? But we're not to be caught up in saving the world, right? Because in saving the world, we're delaying his return, to be honest.
You're becoming a Messiah yourself.
We're taking from him what belongs to him. He never sent you to do that, right? And all authority is given by God, so he has to send you to do stuff. You can't just take it up on yourself to go and fight the governments, you know. That's just crazy. That's not where you're supposed to be.
You know, no rebellion. Rebellion is
it's a sin of witchcraft.
Yeah.
And stubbornness is as idolatry. So it's either rebellion or idolatry. So both of them are bad. We got to be careful that we know where we are and what to do. We are to be concerned with the Messiah because he is our ultimate deliverance. Right?
And wherever we are a blessing to our society.
Yeah.
By keeping the commandments.
If we keep the commandments, we bless.
By loving him.
saves the city.
Yeah. But if we're not keeping the commandments because we're out in the, you know, politicians Saturday night bash or whatever, you know,
you become like Jonah.
we're no longer righteous. We're no longer in the righteous ranks.
And even you become like Jonah, and then even the boat wants to tear itself apart.
And the thing is,
what's the best way for ourselves to put in a way that the enemy can use that? It's to put a different focus. Yehovah is our focus, but he lowered the focus. We focus on that. We miss altogether the boat, and then we so concentrate in here that it doesn't even become a priority.
I mean, that's one of their tricks, isn't it? Sleight of hand.
The enemy likes to blur things, right? Blur the lines. So he blurs the line for us so that we don't see where we need to be. And this is the thing that God was upset with the Kohanim, with the high priest, because he says, you know, you have not taught the people to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong, what is holy and what is profane. Right? Profane is not bad. Profane just means common. Right? So what is holy, what is common is common. You got to know the difference. Establish your line, hardcore line. You know, this is holy time. Shabbat is untouchable. Nothing can take me away from the Shabbat. I don't care who it is. I don't care if they die because I have to keep my Shabbat. That's their problem. If they weren't here with me and if they were not in the Shabbat, that's their issue. This is Shabbat. God has set an appointment, right? He's the creator. He's the only one that can set these kind of appointments. And he said, this day you are to remember to be with me in this day. This is my holy day. It's not yours or mine. We can't set the dates. It's not every day is good for me, right? I used to think before, all days are holy days. Any day I can choose whatever day I want to set.
I'm so holy that every day is holy.
Who gave me the authority to set those holy days? Who gave me the authority to say what day is holy, set apart? Right? When only He has the right to declare something set apart. That's His right. He's the creator, right? So why would I have? He never gave me the right to do that. So who am I to say, well, today I'm going to do this and tomorrow I'm going to do that, and
pick and choose.
Yeah, pick and choose. And then I'm going to keep my holiday on the Wednesday because that suits me. Well, it doesn't matter what it suits you. He said, remember the fourth day, remember the fourth commandment, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Right? It's Him, it's the Creator.
Is the word remember in the original translation?
Yeah. Sachar. Sachar, yeah. Remember Yehovah. Sachar. Well, we get the word Zechariah from Sachar, Yah. Zechariah. Remember Yehovah. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it set apart. That's what it means, literally. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it set apart. Actually, Sachar is more like memorialize it. Make it a part of your memory for longevity, long time. Make it a memory for your generations to come. Sachar, yeah.
Isn't it? I think it is our role for our community and our nation to stand in the gap for them.
Yeah.
And with God's leading, He will be able to take you out of the how you do that diagram of the in and out. Will be able to take you out to witness.
Yeah.
And then bring other sheep that are in other pens.
I have other sheep that are not of this fold, definitely. And that's what we're doing. When Ephraim is to wake up in the nations, we're to be there to gather them, to bring them in, not to ourselves, but to bring them in with us to Messiah. We're not building our kingdom; we're building His kingdom. So, but again, He hasn't told us to go and fight. In fact, sheep don't fight. We're not called to fight. We're called to eat and to have a good life.
So when's the opportunity, like say for example, we're going into war, this war growing up, and when that opportunity comes, we will not be here to get engaged in the war because God won't. And if He does.
Yeah. It says that He comes with 10,000 of His saints to wage war. It's only 10,000 that are going to be doing war on His behalf. That's not all of us. In fact, to the bride He says, hide yourself for a little while till I take vengeance on the inhabitants of the earth. Right? So hide yourself for a little while. Right? Hide, that word hide brings you back to Shabbat because He says, hide yourself. Right? So He puts us in hiding while He goes out to defend us. Right? He comes with a sword, right? The sword of His word. Right? Powerful weapon. We don't know what that looks like, but everything is consumed in front of Him, behind Him. And then we've got the witnesses who come with swords in their mouth, right? Where they speak and fire comes out and consumes. So there are some people that are going to be involved in the war, but not all of us. And that's at the coming of Messiah. It's not now. But where we are now, we're in exile. We're actually in slavery. Right? Well, like the Israelites when they were in Babylon, they were free, but they were still in Babylon. They were still slaves of Babylon. They could do life. They could, live their lives, marry, have children, work. They weren't chained up in somewhere, but most of them were not. They were doing just life like we are, but they were still enslaved to the system of Babylon.
That's like sheep.
Yeah, which is what we are. We are sheep in Babylon at the moment. We're sheep among wolves. The whole system of the governments of the world is all Babylon. There is no one country that doesn't have the system of Babylon. It's just all over the world. It's the Roman system. It was birthed from the Roman system of government. Yep.
The whole world is drunk with the wine.
The wine of Babylon the Great.
They drank the Kool-Aid.
The Kool-Aid.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll quickly tell you the dreams. We had one dream where Sammy was in school early in the week, and he was at BU, at Torah University, and all of a sudden I became him, or it was a mixture. Anyway, it was a dream. So, and I saw this car pull up, and 4 guys come out with semi-automatic weapons, like AK-47 kind of thing, and they had camo gear, urban camo gear, white and black and grey. But they were not Muslims, or they didn't look like Muslims. They were actually speaking a type of Russian, I thought first, but then I thought it was Yugoslavian or something like that. It was more like that kind of language. And I could understand some of what they were saying, and they were talking about the unfaithful, right? And they were Protestant Christians, Orthodox, right? Militant. And they were coming to kill Muslims and anybody else that got in their way. So they went around the university, and I took off to the back of the university, and there's a middle section there. And when I get to the middle section, I see one of the guys turning, and I can't get away. So I drop on the ground and pretend that I'm already hit, like I'm dead. And he comes past and pokes me with a weapon, and I just stay very still. And so he keeps walking. And when he's far enough, I bolt and I take up and I go upstairs, and I'm hiding. There's a bridge between the 2 buildings, and I'm going, crawling in the building there into the bridge. And I get to this room, and there's all these really old people in a room like a library. And I'm sort of pushing them to this door, and there was like a monorail there, which isn't there, but
in your dream there was.
In the dream there was a way to salvation, right?
He's gonna write a letter of recommendation.
And so I'm pushing them in there. I'm literally pushing the old people in there, trying to get them there, and telling them stay low so that no one sees you. You stand up, but old people as they are, they don't listen, stubborn. They stick their heads up and they get shot, right? And this woman, she just wanted to jump out, right? Jump out, to her death. And so I'm holding her with one hand, keeping the other, all this down. It's a mess, And I'm thinking, why isn't the train going? Maybe the driver has been shot. And so I managed to get that lady sitting down and someone else to take care of her, and I'm crawling on the ground, getting back to the front of the train, thinking if the guy is dead, I'll just throw him out and I'll drive the train out. And I'm about to get to the door, and I wake up. That was a bit concerning because Chave and him had similar dreams about the same thing. And so we're praying for Sam. Anyway, so keep him in prayer. But
keep him safe when he goes to
Go to a different universe.
the point being,
Make sure you're in the train.
the point being,
Hang on, don't go to Latrobe, it's near the train station.
Thank you. Then you want to avoid Swinburne as well.
The point being with the stream is that, you know, there were these people with a different mindset, right? This viewpoint that they had. What was good in their eyes was something else, not what is good for us. And then last night I had another dream, which I haven't told Chavi yet, or anyone, which sort of pushed it over for me to do this study, because I really wasn't going to do a part 5. But in the dream, we're having this beautiful time out with the families, and there's all these people, and they set up like a banquet, right? And there's about, I don't know, 150 people there, and they're all having fun, rejoicing, and we're all talking about Messiah, and, you know, worship music in the airways and all that sort of stuff. It's beautiful. And I'm sitting around the middle section with the family and that, and all of a sudden there's this sort of like this policeman just come and sort of block the entrance kind of thing, or the exit area. They just block it, right? And they got all these weapons, and they begin to shoot to the other corner, right? And so I'll sort of pull it up a little bit.
That's Deuteronomy, sorry, Proverbs 14.
Yeah, that was wrong.
Proverbs.
Proverbs 14.
I'll write it to write it. Okay, Proverbs 14.
Make sure it all fits in there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So this was like almost like a hallway like that, and there was one exit there, and so the police come and stand on this side, and we're all in there, and the tables are all like that, and we're about there in the middle, and they begin to shoot at a group of guys up there. Sorry, there was like a second level, right? There were multiple levels around. It was like an auditorium, but there was lots of different levels. And there was a group up there, and they were shooting at them, and we all hit the deck, basically. We're all dropped on the ground under the tables, and food and everything is being blown to pieces around us. And so there's nowhere to go. We're just caught up in the middle of the battle, right? So it's just us here. And these guys are here, they were Muslims, right? Jihadists. They were trying to blow up the place. The police were trying to protect the citizens. And then from a third level up here, another bunch of guys open up, and they're all Christians, you know, militant Christians, and they're shooting at them, and they're shooting at them, and then there's another group that opens up on a fourth level up here, and they're shooting downwards, and they're basically anti-governments, right? They're whackers with guns. So they're all shooting at each other. These guys are shooting at them, they're shooting at them. So there's bullets and weapon fire everywhere, bombs, grenades. I mean, you mentioned it, they're all being fired at each other. And we're just there in the middle of it all.
Just trying to have a nice...
Just trying to have a nice meal. And
Let's
go
pick a different restaurant, why don't you?
Just trying to continue the conversation.
So I'm lying down on the ground and thinking, what are we doing? What are we going to do? If we get up, we're going to get our heads blown off by any of them. You know. Because they're not measuring who's in the crossfire. They don't care about the people that are, whose lives are being put to risk. They don't care about any of us. You know, so what's going to happen? They were just all having their party, right? And God began to speak to me in the dream, and He was telling me, you know, everyone has a point of view. Everyone wants there to be the right thing, right? And we're talking about, you know, creating a kingdom that is according to God's laws, and we're caught up in the middle doing that. Right? We're trying to keep it, to have a life, and to have a life abundant. But we're in the middle of all this mess going on. We're caught up. And this is our situation. So in the middle of all these people thinking that they know what is best, right? The government thinking that they can, you know, allow the Muslims in and then they can restrain them, right? Because they're the ones that allow them in. Now they're trying to restrain them. They created a problem, now they're trying to, I don't know, put a lid on it. Meanwhile, while they're doing that, they're blocking our escape. So the only way that we could escape, they're actually being our stumbling stone. Right? And then you have the Christians thinking that if they shoot at the Muslims, then they're going to save the world. Right? But they're not looking at the other things where the government is actually on the same side as them, and then you got the anarchists on the other side trying to destroy the government. So and we have all this mess, right, going on, and we're caught in the crossfire. And the Father was saying, in the midst of this rubbish that is going on, where everybody thinks and does what is right in their own eyes, how much more is my word important for you to hold on to? In the middle of all that mess, for you to know that I am there with you. Right? To know that you are safe, that the bullets aren't touching you. Because they're all caught up in fighting each other, but we're in the middle, on the ground, doing nothing, resting, waiting for Him. Because He's our salvation, right? Because hold on to my word. In the middle of all this, hold on to my word. Because that is your safeguard. That is the only thing that will save you in the midst of that. Because if you try to get up and stand up for yourself, guess what?
You'll get shot.
You're going to get shot. God didn't call us to stand up for ourselves. He is our deliverer. We're not heroes. We're not to deliver ourselves. We need to leave that to Him. That's His role. We're robbing from Him His role if we try. And most likely we're going to get killed in the process.
Yeah. Could it be possible that sometimes we see, because of what's already written in the Bible, for example, I put a case, David and Goliath.
Yeah.
Goliath, for 40 days and nights, he actually taunted the camp of the Israelites. And there was no one that could stand up because they were all afraid, being soldiers. And here comes David, anointed by God. He uses God's words. He actually puts himself, but he does what God intended for him to do. Now, is it sometimes that we mistake and we think that we are one of those called when we haven't been called?
Yeah. David had a definite call on his life. He was approached by the prophet himself, anointed as king.
Yep.
So he came with authority.
Yep.
This is a man of authority who was under authority. So he was submitted to God under the prophets. So he was a man that knew God. It says he had a heart towards God. Right? So we think it's just jump into the field and go and kill Goliath. It's not. It doesn't work that way. You need to be sent. If you are going to be used as deliverance of YHWH, if you're going to be used in such a way as that, God will send you. God will make it clear. He will anoint you. He will send you prophets. He will, bring on the authority over your life. You don't go after it yourself. You don't go after authority, chasing authority yourself. the moment you chase authority, you make yourself an enemy of God. Because that's His authority that you're chasing.
Yeah.
You're trying to steal His authority. If He gives it to you freely, it's like a king. You don't go and take from the king what is the king's. Right? You wait for the king to bestow something upon you, and then you are honored, you are raised up because the king has bestowed something on you. Like Mordecai, who's the man that the king wants to honor.
Yes.
This is what happens to the man that the king wants to honor. He put him on a horse, put his crown on it, right? He put him under authority. He raised him up before the eyes of the people. But if you go and try to steal from the king, you're going to get your head cut off. Right? If you're going to try to take authority from the king, you're not going to go very far. Right? And sometimes people go the other way around, where they should be doing it this way. So it's important that we hear the words of God and obey them. That was the message for today. That's why in ending this healing thing, healing comes through obedience. Obedience to the word of God. And in the midst of the crossfire, don't try to do your thing. Stick to His thing. Amen. Alright, let's pray. Our Father, our King, we give you thanks for this Shabbat, for separating us unto yourself, and for giving us the privilege to be part of it. Father, may we learn to guard the commandments in spite of. And Father, forgive us for the times that we failed. We ask that you would forgive our transgressions and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. In the name of Messiah Yeshua, we submit ourselves under your governance and under your kingdom rules. Father, because you are the Creator, you know what's good. And only you can decree what is good. Help us to guard the commandments according to what you have asked of us, especially the Sabbath day which you set apart from the beginning of time. We thank you, Father, for the word that you have given us, that we take what belongs to us on this day, Father, and that you might fulfill the purpose for which you sent your word to us and bring fruit in due time. Father, we thank you for our families, for our children, for the brothers and sisters who are here and those who couldn't come for one reason or another. May your blessing be on them too. May they too have eyes to see and ears to hear what the Ruach has sent to us today. In Yeshua's name, amen. All right. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Say Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.